Cool. Let's move on to talking about Amazon software tools. Do automated tools work in management of ads on Amazon?
The short answer is no. There is no such thing as an automated tool, in my opinion, for managing Amazon ads. I think that there's some really good tools out there. I've used Perpetua in the past. I think that's a strong product, and there's some other ones that I've tested in the past that are pretty well made. But there's no such thing as automated. You can't just set up your campaigns, walk away, and not look at it for 2 weeks. I mean, you could, but you're just not going to get the same return. So those automated tools do work. I think that they cut down on the amount of time that you have to spend on your advertising. So, instead of spending 15 to 20 hours a week, maybe you only have to spend, an hour and a half per day looking at advertising. So that they do work in terms of shortcutting and getting more performance for less time invested. But there's no such thing as a fully automated tool. You can't just set it up and walk away from it.
How can brands balance the increased pressure that an auction based bidding system has put on CPCs over the last few years?
I think really having intentionality in your advertising strategy, setting up, knowing exactly what you're wanting to spend, how you're going to acquire customers, and having like a full advertising strategy put together, I think is really important for that. I also think making sure that you are kind of chasing the newer ad formats. Sponsor brand video came out relatively recently, and on Amazon, that was like one of the best things that they've ever had for advertising returns because it was relatively inexpensive because there weren't a lot of people bidding on that inventory. And it was eye catching because it was the first time that a video ad had ever showed up on Amazon. So people were clicking on it at a high rate. That was one that was a great way to sort of get out of the pressure of sponsored products having a lot of campaigns from various brands on there. So that is one way that I would say that you can kind of outwit the competition. You just kind of have to stay ahead of them and be ahead of the curve on your advertising, as well as just having a very intentional strategy of how you are going to approach things.
Could you discuss some strategies and best practices that brands can follow to balance profitability while still advertising aggressively?
The first thing that you need to do is make sure you're doing a full margin analysis on your brands, taking your COGS, taking your selling costs, making sure you're deducting any Amazon fees, such as the FBA fee or the referral fee, and then looking at how much you have left over in net margin for your business, as well as how much you can reinvest into the advertising side. And just don't exceed that number. For most brands, I would say a healthy amount is anywhere between 10 and 25% of net sales being invested back into the channel for advertising. But that's going to vary based on your brand and your product. There are some products that might have a higher shipping fee structure relative to their product. I think beverages are an example of this, where you're shipping a relatively heavy product and the price is not that high relative to that shipping cost. So you might not be able to invest quite as much at that level to be profitable. You might just overspend. So knowing what the amount that you can spend is and just not going over it, it's sort of a don't gamble with what you can't afford to lose situation.
What ad types should every brand be utilizing in their pursuit of success on Amazon?
I think if you're a brand new brand on Amazon, you should have sponsored brands, sponsored products, and sponsored display in a limited capacity. I think sponsored display is a little bit of a newer ad type that needs some improvement, but making sure that you're covering at least sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored brand video, which I mentioned earlier, and sponsored display product defense, just to defend your own pages, maybe not necessarily using the more aggressive portions of sponsored display, but I think having those at the bare minimum are ways that you're going to steadily grow your account without a major investment. You might not be getting 15 to 20% growth month over month, but it will be a way that you can slowly grow your business in a profitable way. And I think that that's just sort of the table stakes of being on Amazon at this point, that you just have to have a basic level of advertising set up.
Follow up to that question, what are your favorite ad types and why?
I don't know if I have a favorite ad type. My favorite ad type is the one that works for that account and that is going to generate the best results. I think right now for me, really interested in DSP and DSP video, because I think that is really attractive for people to click on and wind up on your detail pages. But I think that is also something that is relatively inaccessible to a lot of brands, because you have to make quality video. You have to invest a certain minimum in DSP to make that work. And I think, that kind of walled garden that is there actually helps the performance be much improved because you're going to have fewer people competing against you.
What KPIs do you most live by in relation to performance of ads?
I think it really depends. So at the very basic level, I think ACOS and blended or total ACOS are really important. So I mentioned earlier that for a brand's profitability, they should be having a certain amount that they're willing to reinvest in. I think that's an important like top level metric to track is like how much of our total sales are we reinvesting into the ad platform. But from there, it kind of breaks down based on, is it a branded campaign? Is it a category campaign? Is it a competitor campaign? For a branded campaign, I think the standard is higher. I think that the ACOS needs to be lower. I think the click-through rate needs to be much higher, and I think the conversion rate needs to be much higher. But I would say that those are the core things that I'm going to look at is the ACOS, the click-through rate, and the conversion rate. You can kind of diagnose as a pathway of like where the problem is. Like if you have a high click-through rate but a low conversion rate, it means they're getting to your detail page, but they're not making that final purchase. Maybe your price is too high relative to the comparisons that they're making. Maybe there's something on your detail page where there's like just a detail that people are seeing and they're not liking it, or there's just not enough information on your detail page, so they're leaving and they're not making the purchase. So I think following the customer journey through of like searching for a product, clicking on an advertisement, getting to that page, adding it to their cart, and making their purchase, all the metrics along the way and KPIs along the way that will tell you where in that funnel you're kind of being bottlenecked, those are what I'm looking at. And for the most part, that's click-through rate and conversion rate. We're limited on the amount of add to cart data that we're able to get, but there is more add to cart data being added into things like DSP, and that is another really important metric. On the DSP side, one of the more important metrics, depending on the campaign, is also total percent new to brand or total new to brand sales. So you can get data on DSP only, not on your sponsored products or pay-per-click. But you can get what percentage of purchasers on that ad campaign were new to your brand and how many dollar sales of new to brand sales did you make. And depending on the type of campaign that you're running, that might be the most critical metric that you have where, maybe the return on your spend, you're spending, at a 100% ACOS. So you're spending $1 to make $1, but 95% of those dollars are new to brand sales. So you're acquiring a customer. And if you have a, repurchasable or consumable product, you can be net profitable in the long term because you can expect maybe your average is 2.5 purchases per customer. But if you're spending, 1-to-1 to get a customer who's new to brand, but that customer on average is going to make 2.5 purchases, that might net out to a higher profitability anyway.
What are some of the best Amazon dashboards brands should be utilizing to pull advertising insights? It could be Seller Central dashboards, Ad Console, DSP Console, My Horizons pages, anything that you utilize.
I'll be honest, I'm not super thrilled with pretty much any of the Amazon reporting dashboards. I think that's one of the reasons why, I love Envision Horizons and the product that we have with My Horizons. I think a lot of the Seller Central dashboards, the Ad Console reporting and the DSP console reporting is just frankly funky and difficult to get the metrics out of it that you want. I, in the past, before working here, spent a lot of time digging through 3 or 4 reports, using the data in each of those reports to compile something to get an approximation of what our, advertising performance or general account performance was, which is, again, the benefit of having the My Horizon software and being able to pull all those metrics into one place and get the data in a way that is easier to work with is incredibly time saving. So I think in general, the Amazon dashboards can be incredibly frustrating to work with. I think probably the best one out there is the DSP console because you can get a lot of metrics for that. But the efficacy of the DSP console is honestly down to how did you set up your DSP campaigns and were they set up well? If they're not set up well, then you're just kind of stuck, and it's actually really hard to get data out of the DSP console because it'll pull that data, but it won't necessarily pull it in a easy to use or easy to access way if the campaigns weren't set up in a effective manner.
How would you describe the concept of the Amazon flywheel, and how does Amazon advertising play a key part here?
So I actually don't like the phrase Amazon flywheel. I think it's a little bit of a dated term because I don't think if anybody asked you what a flywheel was that you would know. For most people, I describe it a little bit more of like a snowball rolling down a hill where you can just continue to pick up momentum as you go. the Amazon flywheel as a concept is basically that as you make a sales on Amazon, you're more likely to get more sales. So I mentioned, I think previously, that bidding for things like a general search term and making a sale on that general search term will move you up in sales rank on that search term, whether or not it was a paid placement or an organic placement. So let's say that you want to be the top in your category. If you bid aggressively on the kind of primary search term for your category and get a bunch of conversions on that, you might be 16th in your organic rank, but after having, a really successful ad campaign for maybe like a week or two on, the top term of your category, if you got more sales than anybody else, you would move up toward the top of search. And if you're organically appearing in, the top 2 to 3 of search, it's kind of like Google, where, most of us aren't scrolling beyond those first 2 or 3 results that we're seeing. So on Amazon, I think it's probably closer to 8 total, with usually 4 of those are paid and 4 of those are organic. But if you can get into the top, 4 organic placements, you're going to get a lot more sales. And even going from, second or third to first, you'll get a lot more sales, and you'll get things like a bestseller badge or other items or other like tags that Amazon will give you that will make people more likely to click on your product and complete a purchase. So it's sort of a rich get richer scenario, where the more momentum and the more successful your product is, the more traffic Amazon is sort of going to funnel your way anyway. The way that Amazon ranks you is based on your unit sales, not your dollar sales. So it is a lot easier for you to make that work if you're the cheaper product in the category. So let's say that you're a $15 product and somebody else is a $20 product, and you each, sell $2,000 worth of product, you're going to have sold more units than they did. By that factor, you will be ranked higher than they are.
Also related to this concept of the Amazon flywheel or Amazon snowball is something we discuss internally, which is how brands can diversify their Amazon visibility. One such thought outside of Amazon advertising is by driving external traffic to Amazon. What are your thoughts on driving external paid traffic to Amazon listings?
Yeah, I think this is something that a lot of brands are really hesitant to do, but I think it's actually really important. And Amazon has begun incentivizing this with the brand referral bonus program in recent years. So they've got a program right now where if you are willing to use their attribution platform and basically direct traffic to them, they'll give you a 10% refund or credit back to your account out of their referral fee. So the typical Amazon referral fee for most categories, that your mileage may vary here, is about 15%. So they'll take 15% of whatever dollar value you sell. If you use the Amazon referral program, you'll actually get 10% of that back. So rather than the full 15%, you're going to get, they're only going to charge you 5% because you are directing that traffic there. So I think brands are usually hesitant to do this. Like, for almost every brand I've ever worked with, they're more profitable on sales on their D2C site or their personal site than on Amazon, just because Amazon has a large fee baked into it of that like 15%. But if you're getting the brand referral bonus and you're getting that traffic back, you might actually be making more on Amazon than you might be making on your D2C in some cases, because Amazon shipping rates are so low that might actually bring that lower than your D2C total cost to fulfill. So that, I think that's incredibly important. I think some tricks that I've always loved are if you are working on a brand and you've got maybe a list of subscribers who are on your email list, you can send them an email, but they just haven't made a purchase. Maybe ever. They've like signed up for your email list 9 months ago, never actually completed a purchase. Email those folks when you have an Amazon sale going on. Maybe it's Black Friday, maybe it's Prime Day, maybe it's just because. But send those folks an email and be like, hey, we're on sale on Amazon today. You can get X for 15% off today. Here's the link. And you might be able to acquire that subscriber. Maybe they subscribe to your email list, but they just like didn't want to make the purchase on your D2C site. Amazon removes some of that friction of making a first time purchase, because if I hate it, I know I can return it. Or if there's something wrong with it, I know that Amazon's going to make it right, which you don't necessarily know on a D2C site.